Welcome back to another episode of the Ontario Mortgage and Real Estate Insights podcast. I am your host, Steve Jacques. Today, we have some exciting news to share about a significant leadership change in the Peel region. This development is expected to have a meaningful impact on the community, particularly in the areas of housing and human services. The Peel region has announced Steve Jacques as the new Commissioner of Human Services. His first day with Peel will be Monday, August 12, 2024. Steve Jacques will join Peel's executive leadership team, where he will oversee a comprehensive portfolio of programs and initiatives aimed at enhancing the well-being of individuals and families within the Peel community. In his new role, Steve Jacques will also provide leadership to Peel Housing Corporation, ensuring the provision of safe and affordable housing options for residents. His appointment is particularly noteworthy given his extensive background and proven track record in human services administration, with a focus on housing, social assistance, and community development. Steve Jacques brings over 25 years of experience to this role. He has a deep understanding of the public sector, having worked at several municipalities and public sector organizations. His most recent position was General Manager, Community Development, and Chief of COVID Emergency Operations at the City of Greater Sudbury. In this role, he oversaw multiple large-scale projects, including the development of a nationally recognized strategy to address encampments. Steve Jacques has also served as the Director of Ontario Works at the City of Hamilton, providing oversight and strategic guidance for the modernization of Ontario Works service delivery. Additionally, he spent a short period at Peel as Director of Regional Planning and Growth Management. His experience is further enriched by his tenure at the Toronto Community Housing Corporation, where he was responsible for the redevelopment of neighborhoods such as Regent Park. In his role as Ontario Manager of Community Development and Research at Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Steve Jacques was responsible for developing, negotiating, delivering, and administering affordable housing programs across Ontario. His academic credentials are equally impressive. He holds a Master of Science in Planning degree from the University of Toronto and an Executive Leadership Program certificate from the Ivey School of Business at Western University. He is also a registered professional planner and a member of the Canadian Institute of Planners. Steve Jacques is actively involved in the community, sitting on several boards of directors, including the Board of Advisors for Homelessness at the Ontario Association of Municipalities. His extensive experience and leadership skills make him a valuable addition to the Peel region, and we look forward to seeing the positive impact he will have on the community. Now let us shift our focus to the financial markets. Specifically, we are going to talk about Equifax and its upcoming earnings report. If you are an investor looking for a stock with a solid history of beating earnings estimates, Equifax should be on your radar. Equifax, which operates in the Zacks financial transaction services industry, has shown potential for another earnings beat in its next quarterly report. The company has a nice streak of beating earnings estimates, especially when looking at its performance in the previous two reports. The average surprise for the last two quarters was 4.09%. For the last reported quarter, Equifax came out with earnings of $1.50 per share versus the Zacks consensus estimate of $1.44 per share, representing a surprise of 4.17%. For the previous quarter, the company was expected to post earnings of $1.74 per share, and it actually produced earnings of $1.81 per share, delivering a surprise of 4.02%. The estimates for Equifax have been trending higher, thanks in part to this earnings surprise history. When you look at the stock's positive Zacks earnings ESP, or expected surprise prediction, it is a great indicator of a future earnings beat, especially when combined with its solid Zacks rank. Our research shows that stocks with the combination of a positive earnings ESP and a Zacks rank of number 3 hold, or better produce a positive surprise nearly 70% of the time. In other words, if you have 10 stocks with this combination, 7 of them could potentially beat the consensus estimate. The Zacks earnings ESP compares the most accurate estimate to the Zacks consensus estimate for the quarter. The most accurate estimate is a version of the Zacks consensus that is related to recent changes. The idea here is that analysts revising their estimates right before an earnings release have the latest information, which could potentially be more accurate than what they and others contributing to the consensus had predicted earlier. Currently, Equifax has an earnings ESP of positive 0.66%, which suggests that analysts have recently become bullish on the company's earnings prospects. This positive earnings ESP, when combined with the stock's Zacks rank of number 3, hold, indicates that another earnings beat is possibly around the corner. We expect the company's next earnings report to be released on July 17, 2024. It is important to note that a negative earnings ESP reading does not necessarily indicate an earnings miss, but a negative value does reduce the predictive power of this metric. Many companies end up beating the consensus earnings per share estimate, but that may not be the sole basis for their stocks moving higher. On the other hand, some stocks may hold their ground even if they end up missing the consensus estimate. Because of this, it is crucial to check a company's earnings ESP ahead of its quarterly release to increase the odds of success. That wraps up our discussion for today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Ontario Mortgage and Real Estate Insights podcast. I am your host, Steve Hamoan, and I look forward to bringing you more insights in our next episode. Stay informed and make well-informed decisions. Until next time, take care.